Simultaneously, nothing means anything and everything means something. Hello and welcome to episode 31 of Goddess Hangs.
Episode 31.
Woo! I said the intro wrong. I was like, wait, that's how I normally say it. It doesn't have the ring to it. It's okay. We're here. I'm Sadie.
I'm Juliet. Obviously.
And our podcast is all about making, mindset, manifestation, magic, spirituality, just more lighthearted, relatable.
More fun.
And
And the obviously is a Nick Lachey reference. I don't expect everyone in the world to know who I am. Just making that clear.
Love is blind. Check it out. We actually haven't been together in 2 weeks because I was just in Wisconsin, so we recorded, twice in 1 week before. So I can't wait to hear what's new with you, Juliet, because we haven't done this in a while.
Well, I missed you very much.
I know, I missed you.
I had 5 jam-packed social days in a row.
Oh my God.
With Victor's friends and family. And at the end of it, it's so funny. I was telling my sister and she was like, you sound like a terrible person. Like, why are you complaining? Because it was like, I was like, there were boat rides and fireworks and meals were just handed to me and I'm exhausted. She's like, Juliet, you're so spoiled. And so then I spent the night at my parents' house and just was like, I need to be with my family. I need to reset. I need to recharge. And it reminds me of one time it was my birthday. Actually, I'm not going to tell this story. It's going to make me sound like an awful person. Never mind. But
you're just an introvert, clearly. You need to recharge with alone time.
I'm an extrovert to a point.
Yeah.
And then I need to be alone. And I had very little time to do that for 5 straight days. And I just fell apart on the 5th day. It's like I ran out of battery.
Yeah.
Even though it was all, the beach and restaurants. I mean, truly, boo-hoo Juliet. But
No, my whole family is like that. Me and my dad and my brothers, and we were just with my mom's side of the family, and they're very much let's spend every second together while we're all together. And my family just does not function like that, so we'll sneak away just to be us because it's just a lot of energy. Even though we love them so much, we want to. It's no, I do want to spend so much time with you, but I think they're for the most part extroverted people, and we're just I'm gonna go for a walk by myself. That's it's doesn't mean anything bad. I just need some alone time.
It's just rare when I'm around people who actually charge me up, and you're certainly one of those people where I leave and I never feel drained. It just doesn't happen. Sadie's well, that makes one of us. No, I'm kidding.
No, also one-on-one.
Yes.
I mean, still some people one-on-one can be draining, and it's not a diss to them or anything. It's just some energy balance. No, we're both very chill, so
I had a wonderful 4th of July weekend.
I know, you looked so bougie on the boat in your Instagram story. I was what? Who is Juliet hanging out with?
It was a fun little boat ride, except I took the Dramamine that was not non-drowsy, so I fell asleep the whole car ride back and then slept for another 4 hours when I got home. So
at least you made it awake on the boat.
I want to let you know I'm extremely aware of how privileged my problems were this past week. I don't overlook that. But the introvert side of me was really ready to crawl into a little hole. And be alone.
Yeah, that's okay. That's acceptable.
And then the horseback riding is going good. Somebody messaged me, a Goddess Hangs family member, and was like, I really like that you share about your horseback riding. And I was like, thank you. I don't ever want it to be annoying. I'm so glad. So
I love seeing it. You haven't posted that
trot?
On here. Okay, I thought you meant on your stories. I was like, you don't post that much on your stories.
Oh no, but I talk about it.
Oh yes, no, we love to hear it.
I know. I go from boats to horseback riding, and I'm just exhausted. So yeah, no, I live a very beautiful life, but
The horses probably charge you back up.
Yes, I love
You
them.
need the balance in your life.
I know. It can't all be beachfront. And, oh my god. Oh my god. So, I must have just sounded like such an out of touch, unrelatable person. Let's start this whole thing over. My name's Juliet. But anyways, so
hey, that's very abundant life. I love it.
It felt very abundant.
Yes. Let's get tired by how abundant, how much is flowing to us.
Because I've spent
Let's need to take a little rest from it.
I spent like 10 years getting really tired from not that.
Exactly.
You know, I spent a long time getting really tired because I was working 10, 12-hour days and not really getting paid that much. So it's just like I've been on both sides. These are much better problems.
Yes.
I wish everyone an exhausting weekend. In the
It's
best
always
way.
a good sign, I feel like, when you need a vacation from your vacation.
I know.
You get home and you're like, whew, all right, I need a few days to recuperate.
I saw a very funny reel of like, I don't remember what her name is, but she does these very, very funny reels where she like does like influencer impressions, and that was one of hers today. She was like, anybody else need a vacation after the vacation?
Is that the Hi Caitlin Riley?
No, but I love
that
her
one's so funny. Her
so
LA mom
much.
ones are so funny.
The energy in this house is accosting. Like, she's so good. She's so good. I've worked. Can I tell a quick story?
Yes, that's why we're here.
So I have worked for many, many, many amazing families. There are families that I didn't work for that I interviewed with that I immediately said absolutely not, because they were LA mom. They were the LA mom trope. And I got there once to a job interview, and they had permit parking on their street in Beverly Hills. Mm-hmm. And I was like, could I please put the permit in my car so I don't get a ticket? And they were like acting weird about it. I'm like, I need the permit so that I can interview for you and not get a ticket. I'll give it right back. And so they let me use it after like hesitation. I get inside, and it's the little baby boy who the mom pays almost zero attention to. And she's like, I just felt like it was time in my life to have a child. It felt like the next step in my marriage. And I was like, that's an odd reason to have a child, but whatever. And so I'm looking around the house and I'm noticing there's not a single photo of this kid. But I didn't say that, obviously. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like trying to ask about the child. And she keeps bringing up the fact that she used to own a bird. And she brings out a photo album this thick of photos, and I'm sitting with her at this job interview, and she's showing me page after page after page of this bird, this dead bird. And she's like, it's the craziest thing. I don't have any pictures of my child, but I have a million of this bird. And I'm like, why am I here?
Oh my God. What kind of bird was it?
It was some kind of like green parrot thing.
Wow.
But it was that kind of... She's like, I just want to be able... Oh no, this was another person I worked for. She's like, I just want to be able to go to Spago and not bring my child. I'm trying really hard not to turn into that person with my boating weekend. But yeah,
There's balance to be had.
I've had some funny...
That's so funny.
Work stories in my life, for sure. That was my lighthearted, fabulous weekend. Tell me about your intensely emotional trip.
Well, I'll tell you about the lighthearted stuff first.
Okay.
And then I thought, so I went home to visit my family in Wisconsin, and we have a tradition with my mom's side of the family that I think my family now, it's been like 58 years where we've always gone to the same, obviously not me, but my family, my mom's side, for 58 years, we've always gone to the same campground.
Oh,
and it's this beautiful, beautiful, we'll do some inserts while I'm talking of some of the pictures that I took there, because it's, I mean, so green. Each campsite is super private because there's green around it. I'll put in the tent I set up with my brother.
Oh, good job.
Really good camper.
I've never set up a tent.
Really?
Why? The first tent I'm going to set up is at our flea market this weekend.
Well, we have good practice because we had one like that for over the picnic table. So
oh, great.
It's easy. So I've been going there literally since I was in my mom's belly. like every year of my life until I was 26, I think. And then I missed years because I moved back, or not back, I moved out here. But it's just, you know, this place is just, my family's really tied to it. The last time I went up there was the year after my mom passed away. And it was really, really hard to be there because when your whole family's together, it just is even more obvious that somebody's missing. And we just have so many memories there. So I think like I wasn't consciously aware of that, but then going there this year, it was so magical and so beautiful, and I have more to say with that. But being there, it really triggered a lot of emotions, and I felt my mom's presence so strongly, and it was a beautiful time there, but it was also very hard. And it just, I think that I had avoided these past like 4 years going there because it was just too hard. Because my family, you know, has been going this whole time, and it's like all of her brothers and sisters and my cousins and, you know, big family. And they're always like, Sadie, are you coming? Like, did you plan to come this year? And I was always like, no, I have to work, or no, whatever. And like, truth be told, I could have tried to get off. I never really made an effort. And I think that I just wasn't ready to go, but that didn't click for me until I went back, and I was like, oh, this is just really hard to be here. But it's like, okay, the picture's probably done being up, but you see, it's like the most magical. Like, I have to take you there one summer. You have to come back and see my hometown and go to this place, because I'm gonna go back now. It was great, but it's just magical. It's so green. It's so lush. It's 2 lakes are the campground, and 1 lake is like only a mile around, and it's this little lake, but it's crystal clear. It's called Crystal Lake. You can see the I think it's one of the cleanest lakes in the world if you actually look it up. It's so beautiful. And then the other one's musky, and we can go boating on that. My dad brought his boat up and stuff. But as we were driving to the campground, and I haven't been there in a few years, but this is just, you know, every memory of my life here, like so many memories there. And I get this like crystal clear vision of like, you're going to spend a summer here in a nice, like a bougie camper writing your book. I saw so clearly this vision, and I've always loved reading since I was a little girl, but I never really was like, oh, I'm going to write a book. And even now, like, some people have mentioned it to me, like, oh, you should write a book. Or in a reading once, someone said, have you thought about writing a book? And I never really took it seriously. And then like, that was like the first thing I saw when I drove in there. It was like, you're going to spend a summer here? You're gonna have a nice camper because it's you as a rich lady here.
Love it.
And this is where you're gonna write your book. And I don't know what the book is yet. I have a feeling it's gonna be inspired by, but a fiction of like my life and how all my like learning experiences. So it'll still be about like mindset work and stuff. But I think it's going to be a sort of like half nonfiction, half fiction sort of book. Because I was thinking about it more then, but it was so cool. I just saw it so clearly. I was like, this is where it happens, because no distractions, you know, like just the magic of that place. So that was exciting to just see that vision, because it came out of nowhere. So I know it wasn't like, it was given to me, you know what I mean? It was fun. But yeah, so tying into this episode, we wanted to talk a little bit about grief. My own grief with like losing my mom. It's coming up on 6 years, so also the anniversary always gets tough. And then also like Juliet and I are about to turn 30, so we thought there is a little bit of a grieving when you move into like a new chapter of your life, and like leaving our 20s behind is a big deal, as well as just like other transitions we go through and how we like grieve parts of ourselves, or we grieve relationships that we've had to leave, even if that was the right decision. We just kind of wanted to talk about like grief, how to accept it. It's okay if you still struggle with it for a long time, and like how it's transformed our lives a little bit. So what I kind of learned this past week, which was a very emotional week, one, I was PMSing, so that didn't help. Then so already Sabi Sadie, and then going home, I always get a little emotional because we still have, you know, our house that, you know, we grew up in with my mom. My mom's ashes are there, which I always find comforting. Like, that she's like at home with us, even though it's just that. But it's just, you know, emotional going home. And then I had a hard week before I flew home, just thinking about going camping again. And my mom and my dad are two different people when it comes to emotions. My mom was the one that is really good at communicating emotions and talking about them and asking the right questions and all that stuff. And then my dad, sweetest guy ever, but he's very private with his emotions and has a hard time talking about them. All of us kids inherited my dad's way of being with emotions. I know I'm able to talk pretty freely with mine here, but within our family dynamic, it's really hard for us. Like, my mom was kind of like the person to get us to all, like, as a family, communicate. So she was giving me these nudges when I would meditate with her about, you guys need to, like, talk to each other, and how are you all doing? You know, like, we talk to each other, of course, all the time, and we spend time together, and our relationships are really great. I have two brothers and my dad has a girlfriend who's amazing, and her kids are amazing. So our family dynamic is great, but we hadn't really, like, spent much time being like, how are you grieving? You know, like, how are you doing? It's coming up on the anniversary. Like, how have you been? And I've been getting these kind of, when I meditate and connect with my mom, she's kind of been giving me peeks into how other members of my family have been feeling, which has been good, but hard, because I know it's like, it's just, you just can't, you know, it's like your brothers or your dad, and you're like, I want to take care of you. I know I'm going through this too, but I just want you to feel better or whatever. I knew it was because she wanted me to be like, you can do what I did. You can make this happen. You can make the communication happen. So my dad and my brothers are very private, so I'm not going to say about all these details, but I just felt like we really bonded this week, and we really had good communication and just became closer. I've been kind of freaking out because I'm like turning 30. Am I going to get married in a few years? Am I going to have a kid in a few years? Oh my God, I have to go through these big life changes without my mom. And when I have kids, oh my God, my kids aren't going to know my mom. How do I keep her memory alive so they know who she is? I've been freaking out about this a little bit. And so I'm like, we don't have like a tradition for mom. We don't, you know, this. So we're working together to figure out something we can do. Because we still, you know, her name comes up and we talk about her, but I'm just, when you lose someone, you just grasp for like how to keep their memory alive, I think. And it's hard you can't obsess about it every day. You have to like move on and live a new version of your life and all of that. But it's equally important, you know, to like feel good about the way you're keeping someone's memory alive. And I guess I've just been struggling with that because we're entering new phases of our life. And I'm like, oh my God, it's been 6 years. What if it's a decade and we just don't talk about it anymore or something, which would never happen. But I guess what I wanted to share for anyone that who has like lost a parent or someone really close is that like it's really normal for you to still feel really bad many years later. It doesn't mean you're like doing a bad job. You know, they talk about like the stages of grief as though it's like these steps that you walk up and then like it's over. And I think that's so silly because it's not like, oh, I'm done now. I think it's those stages, but it goes in a circle. And so you go through the stages and then you have some time where you feel really good. And then you go through all of the stages again. And so especially like when I don't know if you call it, I call it her angel day, like when she passed, when like those kind of anniversaries come up or her birthday comes up, I definitely like go through that cycle really intensely again. So I just wanted to share that. So anyone else, I know we have a few listeners who've opened up about their moms or someone else passing and struggling with that grief, even though it's many, many years later. And just remembering that, like, I like to visualize that grief cycle as like a spiral staircase. So even though you are going to continue to like go through those stages of grief again and again for the rest of your life, like every time you go through that spiral, it's like you get to go through it from a higher place. Like you're able to handle it a little bit better, a little bit more healthier. And also something that I want to share, because I struggled with for a long time, is like, if you didn't deal with your grief in a healthy way when something first happened, like that's totally normal and like justified. It's like, especially if it's something like more sudden, like when my mom first passed, I kind of just like went out and partied all the time. Like I just didn't want to deal with it at all. And then I, in more recent years, felt really guilty about that. Like, oh my gosh, I wasn't there enough for my dad and my brothers, but they were kind of at a place too where they weren't quite ready to sit down and face it. Like it's not the best, but it's not awful if you needed to numb yourself a little bit when something first happened. And as long as like you can get to a place where you are going to deal with it. I just like guilted myself so much. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't take care of them, or I was, I don't know, like I was just like having fun partying. And it's like, yeah, because you were numbing yourself. You didn't want to deal with it yet. Like that's okay. That's not a totally crazy reaction. It's a common reaction. And luckily, like I climbed out of that, within a couple of years fairly quickly, and it was okay. And then I did start dealing with my grief more, and I'm still figuring out like healthy outlets. And I'm climbing up that spiral staircase. Before I was just kind of like drowning in that cycle of numbness, and now I'm like working up that spiral. So I just wanted to share that because obviously it's a big part of my life, and it was just this last week was like really intense. Mm-hmm. Lots of memories coming back, and being with her whole family and her not being there was hard. And then yeah, it was just a lot, but it was really good and very healing. And I feel like I maybe even hopped up one of those spirals, and now I'm even higher, because it was very, very good to be able to just, I don't know, like I always want to be like strong for my dad and my brothers and not be sad in front of them or something, even though that's silly.
Right.
I don't want them to be sad because I'm sad or something. So it felt good that we could just be sad together for a little bit and be like, yeah, but we are all actually really great and okay, and living lives that she would be really proud of, and she wants us to be happy and not grieving her 24/7 and all of that. So I just feel really good about the progress that I made with my own grief this past week. Yeah.
Well, I love how you are describing it like a spiral staircase, because I remember, I think whether it was in school or whenever, like learning about like, here are the stages of grief. And I remember not like resonating with a couple of them. I was like, I don't think I bargained to get my grandmother back. I don't think I was angry. Like maybe that's, so to lay it out like, these are the stages, and you walk through the doors, and then at the end you
you're all done.
It was like, wait, I think it's more of like you're saying, the spiral staircase, or just like, I think it starts as like really, really big waves, and then you're fine for a little bit, and then you have like little waves as time goes by, and then once in a while a huge wave will come and knock you on your butt. Yeah,
a big old tropical storm.
Yeah, a hurricane might come through, and then the waters will calm again. And so I really like what you said about, grief and grieving and getting over somebody. There's no like perfect timeline to do that in.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have a family member who I don't think she ever moved away from the day that it happened. Like it's been, I don't know, 40 years or something. Like she still lives in it as if it happened yesterday. And it's so hard, but it's like, well, I don't know what it feels like to lose a kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. So she definitely didn't go through. So there's just, everybody sort of is going to experience it differently. And I love what you said about, your mom doesn't want everybody to like grieve over her 24/7.
Yeah.
Because that makes a lot of sense.
I always think like, if you're struggling with how to like honor someone, like I mentioned, I've just been like, how do we keep her memory alive? But like the best way to honor someone who's passed on is to like exactly what we always talk about, is just like living as like your most authentic self so that you can feel fulfilled and full of purpose and like bring abundance into your life, because like the person who passed doesn't want you to like not live your life. Like they're like, they don't have their life anymore, which is okay. They're in a beautiful place. Like my mom, she's always here, but she's like, the best way to honor her would be to like not stay in the job that made me miserable and barely make it. Not the best way is to like live my freaking life how I want to and like figure it out, because I got one life, and like what if, you know, knock on wood, I'm gonna live, you know, a long healthy life, but she thought she would too, and you know, she had her 46 years and that was it, and luckily she made, you know, fulfillment and purpose really important in her life, and so she had a great beautiful life, and we had a amazing family and all of that. But you just, I just think that's the best way to honor someone, is just live, you know. They don't want you to not live.
I also like the idea of like carrying on a legacy. So I know that there's a lot of things that your mom was passionate about, or like beliefs she had that like you embody. And I know you were saying like, you know, how will my kids know her? They're gonna know her through like who you raised them to be. Like, yeah. My grandparents, my dad's parents, their whole lives, they sort of, and I definitely got this from them, they sort of went from like one idea, one project, one show to the next. They, in the, I don't know, the 40s and 50s, they were the Piper Players, and they went around and they would do theater productions. And then my grandpa created game shows. He created Concentration. And then like they would just, it was always one idea, and they were always just chasing like the next idea, and they manifested so many things. And my grandma got acting roles like into her 80s. Like, wow. They were just, it was sort of like never enough for them, like in a fun way. And my dad is very much like that. And my uncle is very much like that, and I'm very much like that. And so it's like I feel them in me, like as I explain to people like how I spend my time. Yeah, you know, like, oh well, I'm working on this and I'm doing this. And I spent some time with my dad yesterday, the day before I had like a little sleepover at my parents' house, and at midnight my dad like made everybody pizza, and he was like, this is the next project, this is the next big thing. And it, like it's just, it was like embedded in us. It's
their legacy.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And like, so we carry on like in that way. Or like I had a friend in high school who passed away, and I think and he totally like lived life to the fullest. And I think everybody who knew him in my grade sort of went on and did kind of extraordinary things with their lives, because they were like, oh, life is short, you know? So it's interesting how, like, the butterfly effect of how we sort of imprint upon one another, or whatever, like influence one another. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom definitely. I feel like if my mom were alive, she would be a part of this business, and she very much is. You know, the pretty much the same amount influences this business, because I can communicate with her very clearly, and I'm so grateful for that. But yeah, I think I've talked about her before, but like when I was in high school, I'd have to like wait for her to get done meditating to ask if I could like go out, you know. I'd be like, sorry, my mom's meditating, I have to wait to let her know where I'm going. And you know,
your kids will do the same thing.
Yeah, I know. And then she'd tell me about her visions or whatever during meditation. I'd be like, okay. Like, your mom was psychic, you didn't even know. Yeah, and just always did energy healing, did so much woo-woo stuff, knew all about like herbs and homeopathic medicine, and it was totally a witch, like, you know, like just like everything I am now.
Yeah.
And you don't even like, I didn't even like realize it. And then as I've kind of finally embraced like, okay, what do I want to do, like how do I make this happen, it's just like every day I'm like, oh, I'm like, I am my mother. She was always figuring out the next side hustle, trying different things, because she had a very entrepreneurial spirit, even though she was a nurse. And then she would also work with like one-on-one clients and stuff. But it was just funny because I'm like, oh, I'm my mom, and everyone says I act just like her. and look like her. And so my kids will know who my mom is because I'm literally her.
Totally.
But you know, it's just the kind of thing where you always envision being able to call your mom and ask about, oh, what do I do with diaper rash or whatever it is when that time comes.
Yeah.
And it's going to be, I just know it's going to be hard for me, like on my wedding day or on the, you know, or as I start to raise kids. It's just going to be hard for that part to be missing. But, you know, we'll find really cool ways to make her memory a part of those days and all that. But yeah, life is crazy, man. Mm-hmm. Being alive is crazy. I was just thinking about how just being a person, a human being in the body you are right now, where and when you are, all of the events that have to transpire, our souls, just the fact that souls exist. I was tripping myself out the other day.
Oh, I can go real deep down that. I'm sure everybody who listens to our show does it too. Like I what is it like? It's not disassociation. There's a word for it where you're like, oh, nothing means anything.
Yeah.
Nothing means anything.
Like,
and now I have to wash the dishes. Like, it's weird.
Simultaneously, nothing means anything and everything means something.
I know,
like,
I know.
At the same time, like every second of our day is hugely important to our existence and also does not matter at all. But I feel like how we use that is like, okay, like the stuff that does not matter at all is the negative thoughts and emotions and the I dropped my phone or all those little like not great parts of our days do not matter at all. And then all of the butterfly that flew past the window, the breeze, you know, all those like little positive seconds of our day mean the whole world. Like that's how we have to like use that dynamic.
I have this visual. I've been saying this since okay, first of all, want to hear like a weird thing about me?
Yes.
When I was like 11 or 12, I was convinced I was going to die at 16. I like prepared things. I like wrote down like, please give this to this I just felt like I wasn't going to live a long time. I don't know what that was about.
In your life before that one, you died
maybe
young or something.
I was just like, yeah, 16 would be amazing. And it's not like I was...
would be amazing.
It's not like I was
16.
engaging in any sort of like high risk activity or lived in like a dangerous neighborhood. I just felt like that was when the end was going to be. And like, I remember cleaning out all my stuff.
You're like making sure I don't leave a paper trail of anything embarrassing.
Oh, the paper trail. I've like burned things. It was like, you know, when I go give this to this person, when I go, here's who this, and I just had this weird feeling like that was going to be it. And now that I'm the age I am now, I'm like, oh no, like I'm going to hit 105. Like,
yeah.
And so
that's so funny.
It's weird, these things we think we know. I don't know why I'm sharing this. Oh, but the other thing that I always thought I knew was that, you know how people say like you're a young soul, you're an old soul?
Oh, yeah.
I felt like I was done. They were like, Juliet, you can chill, you're done. And I was like, no, I'd like to go back one more time. Like, I'd like to ride the slide one more time. And they're like, are you you really are good. Like, you don't have to go back. You can do other work up here. And I was like, no, let's do it again. And that's like a feeling I had I haven't thought that in a long time.
Have you read Reincarnation Blues?
You've talked about it.
Okay, you should borrow it. It's a fiction book, but the premise is that we have 10,000 chances to reach enlightenment.
Whoa.
So you might reach it, so your soul comes back, you know, again and again, and you learn soul lessons, and then you choose the next, like, you have like a spirit team that you have like in between, and you kind of decide together like, all right, well, I should live this life this time so that I learn this for my soul's evolution, you know. So some lives are harder, sometimes you'd pick like a really good life to see if your soul could handle like not being like spoiled or greedy by like this really good life, you know what I mean? Like there's all these different kinds of lives, and the end goal is to reach enlightenment, but you only have 10,000 chances, and it's about the oldest soul in the world, and you start the book and he's on chance like 9,994 or something, and he reflects on other past lives, and then you're also going through these final lives with him, and then he's got like one last chance. I won't tell you what happens, but it's a really good book, and it really solidified like, oh, like reincarnation. I don't know, I guess I used to think it was about like punishment or reward for how good your life had been, but the idea in this book is like, no, like you choose, because you need to fill in parts of your soul. So like a young soul, it's in the early stages, so that might be someone that is more having trouble with maybe being a toxic person, or maybe that's just the life they chose, is to figure that stuff out. But the older souls tend to be a little bit more mature right away, because we've completed more of our like soul's evolution, is the idea. And I love that, because I was like, oh yeah, like I don't think our lives, just like the idea of like heaven or hell never spoke to me. Like, we're humans, we're imperfect. I don't think we're rewarded for, like, I don't know, like the Catholic Church is like, if you have sex before marriage, you are definitely going to hell. That's it, you know, like, okay.
Yeah,
it never spoke to me.
No.
And even with reincarnation, it's like, and there were even some of the lives in that book where he had done like terrible things, but his soul was like fighting, and he knew, and like he was like, there's something wrong with me in this life, whatever. And he didn't go into the next life being punished for being a terrible soul in that one, but he had learned something, and then whatever he wanted to learn in the next one. So I thought that was like a really cool way to look at reincarnation, and I think that is.
Isn't it weird, like, of all the things that okay, this is what's wild to me. There's so many different ideas and beliefs in the world, and so many things that like we can either agree with or disagree with, but there's like millions of people who are like, oh yeah, no, I've been here before.
Yeah.
Like, there are millions of people who just feel it in their souls, in their bodies, that are like, yeah, no, like I've been here.
I just don't think it's plausible that we don't reincarnate.
Like, the energy's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, think about science, like we cannot create nor destroy energy. So our soul is a very potent, it's what I mean, I would dare say it's like the most intense, strong energy out there. It's freaking consciousness. So like why would they just like bloop come out of nowhere and then just disappear or
goodbye,
go to this heaven or whatever, and maybe it is like a thing where you reach enlightenment and then go off to some whatever. But I don't know, then there's ideas about like, well, maybe then you upgrade into like a spirit guide or whatever the thing is. I don't know.
A promotion.
Yeah, you get a promotion.
A Christmas
like
bonus.
You didn't have to come back for this life. You could have upgraded to a spirit guide for someone that's like you're an ancestor or something.
Right.
Because your soul, you reached enlightenment, or you had enough evolution to like whatever. I don't know. I think it's cool.
If you guys enjoy the topic of reincarnation, we have an episode, I don't know what number it is, but we'll link it below.
Early on,
of children who remember their past lives. Very
children
cool
who remember
episode.
their past lives, and one with Tiffany.
Past life.
At higherself.guidance, who is a past life.
What did I call her?
Regression technician or something.
That's what I called her. Quantum
QHHT.
healing hypnosis
technician.
That's what I called her. It's technique, but you know, there's like a nail technician.
Yeah, and I think we're about to confirm with another someone to interview that does past life work.
It's just endlessly fascinating.
We could just do every episode on past lives, and I would be happy.
I have a question for you.
But
what do you think, that everything's a simulation? Like, didn't Elon Musk say like, yeah, no, this is all a simulation?
I
don't.
No.
I just don't
think you could be like, no, I think you could view that in like different ways, you know, like, could it be like kind of like a simulation in that we are in like a enclosed sort of environment or whatever, like within the universe? Maybe there's like another universe outside this universe, or I don't know, like, okay, there are interesting squeaks.
It keeps really sounding like I don't know if you can hear it on the mic. A football game or something.
I don't know if you can hear my stand keep squeaking. I was gonna say, there are like, where, you know how computers code in like zeros and ones, And they've found that naturally occurring in nature with, I'm not able to explain this correctly, but the way, I don't know, they can stick something on a tree and it comes up with like 0 and 1s or whatever. I don't know.
Weird.
That's why there's like speculation of this simulation thing, I guess. But like everything in nature like is a pattern and repeats itself. Like our world is a very mathematical world, like the rings of a tree and then the spirals that you find here and here. Oh my gosh, I was when I was at the campground, I was meditating in this spot that I've always gone to since I was a little girl when I needed alone time, because again, it's a time with a lot of family. It's my crying spot, actually. I always go there to cry.
Oh, I need a crying spot.
When I was in high school, I had an awful time, just very hormonal and depressed, but didn't know that, so I didn't get help, and I would just go there and cry and whatever. This is my crying spot. So I went there and I meditated. It was beautiful, connected with Mom, had a nice little healing cry, but I was just staring out at the lake in a trance, and there was this little water bug just zooming around in perfect spirals, making these spirals in the water, and it would go this way and then turn the other way, but every time the spiral was perfectly the same size spiral as the bug was making, perfectly, you know, like same size spiral, whatever. And I was just looking at that, I was like, that's amazing. And, you know, the galaxy or whatever is in a spiral, and then and it's not just the spiral, it's many different you know, like, I don't know, what is it, like the roots of the trees and our brain, and if you look at, you know, our eye, it looks like the galaxy. Like everything repeats in nature, and I think that's part of the simulation speculation, but I don't necessarily see it as like, oh, we're in a video game.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a very cool and interesting, if you read the you know, the ideas of like why you could speculate that.
I know, it is fascinating.
Yeah.
I went to a writing camp like a few years ago, and my friend Isaac brought that up, and it was like the topic for the rest of the weekend. I was like, wait, say it again.
Say it again.
Explain it once more.
I need to re-listen because I fell asleep for part of it, but my brother was showing me this podcast episode. He loves the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And he has amazing guests on there of all sorts. Sometimes it's other comedians, sometimes it's like these astrophysicists, whatever. And I think the guy was Brian Greene. It would have been Dr. Brian Greene, but he's talking about the universe, and I fell asleep for parts of it, but he's basically explaining how everything in our world, including us, is made up of stardust.
Yes.
Which one of my favorite all-time movies is called Stardust, and is really magical and beautiful, and you should watch it. Robert De Niro's in it, and he plays a gay pirate, so it's amazing.
I love it already.
It's amazing. Anyways, but Luke's like, you have to listen to this. Part of it gave me a panic attack because he's talking about how like the universe is expanding, and if it doesn't stop expanding, like one day, because it makes everything in the universe expand, right? Like one day the Earth will just go and like pull apart because it's like expanding from all around, and like we will pull. And he's like, I had a panic attack.
Oh no.
But the guy's just, you know, talking about stardust and all that, and better than we can probably ever explain it. But I mean, I'll try to remember to link that episode below too. I want to re-listen to it, but I know our universe is just freaking fascinating. And
when we went for our
magical
little walk to collect, so a couple weeks ago, Sadie did a witch's night in, which was so fun. And we went on a little nature walk, and I came back with like one leaf. But that leaf, I stared at it for a long time, and I was noticing like, oh my God, these lines are perfectly symmetrical in the exact same. How did the plant know to do this?
I know.
Like I can get very lost in.
Oh, and when we collect the shells, those are perfect spirals.
Oh my gosh, shells. Oh my God, I have to insert a video right now. I love collecting shells, and there's this video where Victor's like, what do you got there, honey? And the way I said shells, I sound so funny. So insert that here.
What'd you find, honey?
Shells.
We love it. Okay. Yeah. We got off topic talking about our magical world, but I love it.
Let's talk about turning 30.
You know, I'm pretty ready for it. I think we've talked about this before. We're both actually fairly excited to turn 30. Like, your 20s are hard. Then you go through, what is it, your Saturn Return?
That's around 29.
And that's when you really transition from like kind of like almost like childhood to adulthood. In your 20s, you're trying to figure out who the fuck you are. You have no idea. It's super hard to figure out. You're supposed to decide and go to school when you're like 19 about what you're just gonna do forever, and then that doesn't work out and whatever. Obviously, like, I lost my mom in my 20s, and finally at the end of my 20s, I'm figuring out who I want to be, start my own business, whatever. So I just feel like turning 30 is going to be this huge, beautiful turning point into like fully stepping into this past year, really, year and a half. Well, no, year and a half, 2 years now, of figuring out who the hell I am and then creating something out of it, which happened really quickly and I'm very excited by. But at the same note, I'm like, oh my God, like, I'm turning 30. I don't want to have a kid anytime soon, but I don't want to be an old mom, or like, I have like these thoughts that are like kind of
it's so weird how
you have to kind of think about
up.
Yeah, where I'm like, I had really young parents, so I just struggle with that because my parents were done having the three of us at 30. They were done. They started at like 21, and then Tommy was born when they were like 30.
Can you imagine having a child at 21?
Oh my God, no.
Oh my gosh, your parents are amazing.
Yeah, I know. That whole year my mom called me because she was like, daughters always follow in their mother's footsteps. So she would call me like every other day and be like, are you pregnant? And I'd be like, no. What?
Aww.
She thought if I survived that year without getting pregnant, like, I'd be good, you know?
Like the curse was broken.
Yeah.
As if having you was a curse.
Yeah. She was, I mean, I think she was pretty traumatized by it. Having it, you know, I was an accident. They were glad that, you know, my mom's like, well, you're a pleasant surprise, which I know they absolutely totally freaked out and were like, oh my God. And that's okay because they had me and we had a beautiful, wonderful life when I was a kid. But yeah, it's just weird to think about. And then I remember being little and like loving that I had young parents, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know. I just always thought that like I would, before I like figured out what I wanted when I was little, you know, I thought, oh yeah, I'll do that too. Not 21, but like I'll do that too in my 20s. I'll be married by 25 or whatever. And now I'm almost 30 and I'm like, I don't really want to get married anytime soon. I don't want to have a kid for another 10 years. I'm like, but I kind of have to within these next 10 years.
Isn't
like,
that annoying?
They go by so fast. I'm like, fuck. I know if I had one like right now, if I found out, which I'm not because I'm bleeding right now. I know I'm not, but I'm like, if I right now found out I was pregnant, I would have, my first reaction would be like, oh shit, but then I'd get really excited and like totally embody it and thrive with it and be
but we're gonna do it at the same time.
Yeah, Julia and I are going to have a baby at the same time. But you know what I mean, like that's a new thing too. I'm like, oh, I'm 30, like I'd have to be excited if I got pregnant. I can't be like, oh no.
Didn't Amy Schumer have a joke about that where like she's in her 30s and her friends are like, I'm pregnant, and she's like, oh, do you need a ride? Like,
yeah.
And they're like, no, Amy, I'm married and I'm in my 30s. What do you mean, do I need a ride? Like,
yeah, I know. I'd still have a like, oh shit moment, but then I would, you know, figure it out. Yeah, but it's just, yeah, I am freaking out about like, okay, this is the decade where it happens or it doesn't. It's up to me, but like, I gotta decide now. Is that Boo or Mister? Oh, it's
hi,
Mr. Cat.
He says, you will be a fabulous mom. Do you want to come up?
I also did seeing my family. Hey,
don't
not
scratch
on this
the
one.
nice chair.
I did see my family. On my dad's side, my cousins have been having kids for a decade. There's tons of babies. But hey, don't scratch the chair.
You can jump up, but stop doing that.
My baby now, Mr. Cat.
Come here.
But on my mom's side, my cousins just, well, my cousins just started having, like, the first great grandchild was born, and I saw him. This little boy named Robbie, and he was so cute.
Baby Rob.
He was born on my mom's birthday, which felt very special.
Oh,
Like
I love
last
that.
or he's a year and a half. Yeah, like last year. He's going to be 2 in November.
Look at this affection. What?
Oh,
Mister, that was so unlike you. Thank you.
my little baby. I am a mother to my cat children. And we totally bonded, and I was playing with him, and I was like, oh my God. Like my body was like, we should have one.
Now is a great time.
Yeah, I was like, no. But just playing with the little toddler that like was like so in love with me. I was like, oh my God.
So for me, my 20s, I felt like I didn't do in a very normal 20s way. I was not like going out and partying and cutting loose and traveling
I did a lot
the
of
world.
that. Yeah.
I kind of didn't do that. I lived at home and I worked a lot, and I like tried to build a music career, and I was just a lot more. I definitely had like wonderful magical times, but I wasn't like, you know, halfway out of a Jeep with like, woo, you know, I just wasn't my speed. And so there's a that definitely is one of those like, we're calling about your car's extended warranty.
Oh yeah, that phone number keeps popping up.
Yeah, I need to block it. So I didn't really do that. So there's a part of me that wants to make my 30s a little more like that.
A little wilder.
But the timing is very annoying because at the same time I'm like, am I supposed to be like asking for a ring and
yeah.
like,
I literally
pushing out a baby?
have been going through this like, okay, do you know the term rumspringa?
No.
Rumspringer. It's like when Amish kids come of age and they get like this, I think it's a year that they are told to like go live in normal society, go party it up, whatever, and then they decide with the knowing of what both ways of life are if they're coming back to the Amish community. And I'm like, I feel like I need a Rumspringer year of like
Me too.
I take a break from life and I just go nuts.
Oh my God, that's
even though I very much had a wild 20s. But I kind of just mean it in terms of like, I just want to spend a year like traveling, and I want to spend like I just want to like do a bunch of stuff. Like I want to just travel and like go nuts, and then I'll be ready to settle down. I'm like, I can't have a kid before I do that.
So 30 to 33.
Yeah. Well, we need to do the Goddess Hangs World Tour.
Goddess Hangs World Tour.
Yep.
Goddess Hangs Rumspringa.
Rumspring. I don't know if it's Rumspringer or Rumspringa. I think people just yell Rumspringa. I think it's actually a Springer. I don't know. Who knows? I know we have some Wisconsin listeners or other people that know about Amish communities.
And then at 33, we can be like, ring me up.
Yeah, put a baby in me.
And put a baby in me. That sounds great.
That feels okay to me.
I don't want a baby yet.
No.
I want my babies. I just don't want them at this moment. I also want a house.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that has nothing to do with grief. But
we moved on to more.
We're just talking about our personal lives.
Well, it's just, it's like grieving that like carefree part of our youth. Like, and a lot of people, okay.
I felt that at 20.
Yeah.
I was sad as heck to turn 20.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'll never be a teenager again. That's it.
I was excited to turn 21, so I didn't care about 20. 25 was actually really hard for me because I was like, I'm halfway through my 20s and I'm going to be 30 before I know it. And at that point, if I was still like working in retail and all that, turning 30 would be awful. Yeah. I'd be having a terrible time because I would be like, oh my God. And that's how I felt at 25. I was like, I haven't figured out what I want to do with my life, and I wasted the first half of my 20s not doing any, even though that's not true. Like, I got to go on an amazing backpacking trip in Europe and all this stuff. But that's how 25 was for me. I hated it. But I didn't like being a teenager that much. I was glad to.
I think you and I both like 29 hit, pandemic hit, and we were like, oh, we have one more year to like turn our
and so we did
lives around before 30, and we totally did it.
We were definitely gifted with time to do that. So yeah. I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, it's like grieving, like not having to and for us at least, like not having to think about like, oh, when am I gonna get married, when am I gonna have a kid? Like it's like this new thing that I didn't think about much before. Now I'm like, oh, I'm 30, so I do have to think about it. Like, I have 10, like, you know, I don't want to have a baby when I'm 40, but you can. I picture myself doing that before, but at the same time, like, maybe I just won't until I'm 40 because I don't want to anytime soon. I feel like I don't know.
I know, it's bizarre.
Oh my God, men are so lucky. They can just start their families at 40 or 50. They don't,
whenever they want.
but also I think part of it is just like, I'm gonna have more energy now than probably.
Well, who's to say?
Maybe not.
Who's to say? I think the beautiful thing that makes me excited about 30s is that it's like a fresh start. It's a fresh decade. I feel like my 20s, everybody was like, you should be doing this. You should be doing that. You're in your 20s. You should be. And I feel like by 30, people sort of start to leave you alone.
You all realize, doesn't it?
It's like, oh, whatever.
You're just gonna do what you do.
So I'm excited for that. And like, I don't know. I'm just excited. I'm really excited.
I am
actually.
excited.
It was much sadder to turn 20 because all I ever wanted to be was a teenager. That was like my dream.
Oh.
Some people want to be like 13 going on 30. I wanted to be 13 going on 15. Like
Yeah.
So 20 was like really
My
hard.
teen years were very hard, so I was excited to be over with that. But I loved my early 20s. I had a ball, but I was always partying. But it was fun. It was good.
What is something that you are excited to say goodbye to? Like the 20s, like the chapter's going to close and you're like, wow, I goodbye to that version of me. Like, is there something that you're sort of excited to leave behind? And is there something you're sort of sad to leave behind?
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to leave behind that part of me that was like so confused and like unsure of who I was. Like how I was always obsessed with purpose and all of that. And I always knew, like, I always was like searching for, how do I start my own business so that I can work from wherever I want? Because I always just wanted to like work from home and be able to travel as much as I want. Like that's always been with me, but I just felt like I had no idea what I could possibly make as a business. And really that meant that I just had no idea who I was. So I'm excited to like close the door on that officially. Like this last year I very much found myself, but it's like, all right, I'm entering my 30s in a really good place of like, I know who the fuck I am now, you know, closing the door on like that like version of me that knew but was afraid to admit it. You know what I mean? Like done. No more imposter syndrome. I mean, you know, it's okay if it comes back, bubbles up a little bit, but like no more like pretending I don't know how to do it or whatever. I'm just sure of myself and my capability and I have the confidence to like make shit happen, and that's it. No excuses or, you know, dawdling through trying, oh well, I can or whatever. That was 20 something old Sadie.
I love it. And then anything that's gonna be a grieving, like no.
I think like I kind of just said, like, I'm from like a small town in Wisconsin, so everyone kind of, if you stayed there, like you settled down really young and got married in like your early 20s and already have kids and stuff now. But for me, my 20s, I never ever felt worried about that once. And now I think I'm sad that I feel like that little, I'm still not worried now, but I definitely have to keep it in mind now. I feel like up until 29, I was like, don't have to think about it, don't have to worry about it a teensy bit. And now I'm like, all right, well, I have to take it into a little, I'm going to like let life flow and like still remain open with it, but it's going to be something that is sitting in my mind.
And is there anything you'd like to do in the last month of your 20s?
I don't know.
I keep thinking about it. I'm like,
is there anything I gotta do?
I can't think of anything. I'm like, do I get a tattoo? Do I get a piercing? Do I go to Vegas? Although, well, we'll go to Vegas.
We are going to go to Vegas, yeah.
But I'll be 30 by then. It's so weird.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
What's the actual date of your birthday again? I know.
That's okay. July 18th.
18th. Okay, I was like, I know we're hanging out on the 17th. Is that the actual day? The 18th.
But we'll be together at midnight on the 17th.
So
to ring in the new decade.
Yes.
This is like my New Year's
Maybe
Eve.
I'll go live, like I'll on my phone so you don't have to think about me. I'll go live on Goddess Hangs for like right before midnight so they can do it with us or something. I'll try and remember on Instagram. Make sure you're following us at Goddess Hangs. Yeah, the 18th, and then I'm August 29th.
2/9. Oh yeah, remember 1/8 and then 2/9. Like it's. Does that make sense? Like +1 +1.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You looked at me like I don't know what the connection is.
I remember there was
between...
something. Well, I was like, we're like 1 month and 11 days apart, right? So that's like 1 That's what I was processing. That's what I was processing in my head with that weird look on my face.
Sadie and I were in the womb at the same time.
We were.
Isn't that cute? We incarnated. Well, and I was early. Were you late?
No.
Were you on time?
Well, I was 2 days late, I think.
Okay, I think I came like almost a month early.
Really?
So we might have
been
swooped in around the same time.
Our little souls. Maybe we were holding hands as little souls, and then we said, okay, let's dive into our mamas now.
I love that. Oh, now that makes me want a baby.
I know.
Darn it. This all went.
I know it'll, yeah. I really see myself as it being like an accident. I can't ever picture myself sitting down and being like, let's do this. It's just gonna have to happen. And I already told God that. I was like, just let the accident happen when it's time. I'm okay with it, because I can't picture myself being like, all right, I'm ready, put it in me. I cannot foresee that happening.
Oh my God.
So we'll just see.
We'll just see. Oh my gosh.
I remember I remember my mom turning 30, because I was like 8 or whatever. I remember thinking I was like, I grieved my mother turning 30. It comes full circle. I was like, oh my God. I had no idea the age of other people's parents who were like definitely 10 years or more older. I was just like, my mom and dad are so old, because they're only a month apart. But yeah, I just remember thinking she was so old, and now I'm like, I'm not ready for a kid.
Yeah, I feel like we had this gift of like a really stretched out youth.
Yeah.
Like think about like 100 years ago, like you went to work at 8. You know what I mean? Like at 8 years old, you had a job. Like there was no childhood.
Oh my God.
Maybe more than 100 years ago. I'm really pushing the labor laws thing, but
maybe not. I don't know. Stuff is more recent than we think with a lot of stuff.
I'm just thinking of like, what was it, like the Industrial Revolution? All these kids with little hands. Oh, we'll get them to work the machines, and they'd be like, "Where's my pinky?"
Oh my God, that's
horrible. Horrible.
I remember where I was going with when I was bringing up my mom turning 30, but I remember asking her like, so like, this was more when I was a teenager though, so this was later. She was like 40 then. I was like, when did you feel like an adult? Like when do you? Because I was, I think I asked her when I was probably like 16 or 17. So thinking about like,
what'd she say?
I was like, I'm going to be going to college in a couple of years and be out on my own. Is that when I'll feel like adult, or is it after college or whatever? And she was like, no, I don't feel like an adult now. She's like, I think I'm 12. And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, all the adults, no, you never feel like an adult. You just figure it out.
That's kind of how I feel.
And she's like, you just kind of fake it till you make it. And then you start to know, because you just do, you do it. And she's like, but yeah, you never feel like an adult. It's like, that is true. Well,
that's good to know, because I'm like, will I feel different when I'm 30? And the answer is probably no.
No. Will you feel different when you have children? No.
Oh my gosh.
My mom said that when because my parents, they were 21 and they looked very young. And she said, like, when she was pregnant with me, this is in a small town, remember? Like, she would get dirty looks because she looked like she was like a 12-year-old with a pregnant belly. And then with like a baby, like people thought she was my babysitter.
Oh my gosh.
I actually brought home photos. We could do an insert of my mom and dad. I could scan the photo. Aww. When they were young and in love. I think this was before I was born, or maybe around the time.
Oh,
right before.
I can't wait to see.
They're so little. My dad looks like a spitting image of my brother Luke, and then I look like my mom. But my dad has a mullet. Well, you'll be looking at it, and then my mom has like big curly hair.
Oh, cute.
80s babies. They're 80s in the 80s in high school. Not born in the 80s. But yeah. So I think with the 30s, it's grieving it a little, the 20s a little bit, but I mostly feel good about it.
Me too. I'm on the same page.
What about you all out there?
Yeah.
Are you entering a new stage of your life? Are you grieving it? Are you feeling excited? Both? I think we have a pretty good range of ages in our listeners. Like some of them are a lot younger than us, but some of them are our age and some older. So I'm curious with your experiences and like what ages were the hardest for you to turn that like you grieved a little bit. I want to know. Comment if you're on YouTube,
please.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to cover when it comes to like grief?
You're doing amazing.
You're doing amazing, and it's okay. It's not a stairway that you get to the top and it's over with.
It's a wave that will knock you down for the rest of your life. In varying degrees.
Yeah. I just think it's important to remember, like, you can feel like you accepted it, and then when you start feeling some of those, I know, like, I'll have a day where I get angry again, like, why did this happen? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't ever really accept it, or like, I thought I was doing better than I thought. It's like, no, I was doing great, and then I feel angry for a day, and then I'm accepting again, and whatever. It's like, it's okay. Especially when it's like, I think, like, you know, when it's your parent, or if you're a parent and it's your child, those are the two hardest. And the sibling would be really hard too. But if it's when it's someone that immediate to you, like, that's just, you just have to accept that it's going to be forever that it hurts. You know, there's never going to be a time where you accept it and then all done. You accept it and then you cycle back through. And I think that's what I kind of struggled with for a while, is like giving myself a hard time that I was like taking steps backward or something, but that's not it at all.
Yeah, it's not like,
it would be weird if I accepted it and never felt sad again.
Yeah,
or
it's
never
not a relay
felt
race.
upset.
It's not like, here, take the anger, let's move on to this. Like,
yeah, it would be very strange if, you know, it never surfaced again. And maybe it will less and less, I don't know, but yeah. So we're going to do some new segments. Okay, so we're going to do 2 new segments of the podcast every single week. So the one is that we decided, instead of doing 1-800 Psychic Babe hotline episodes, full episodes every so often, that we would just do one every week. So you can see the form below to submit. We offer a spot where you can put a nickname if you want to remain anonymous. You don't even have to tell us your actual name if you want to remain anonymous to us too. But it's your chance to get a little reading. It doesn't even have to be a reading. You can just ask us any question you like. But it's a free little reading for you on the show. So we're going to do that. And then our other segment we're going to do every episode is spooky time. I don't know. Spooky time. Maybe we'll come up with something clever for that. Who knows? I like spooky time. Maybe we can find a like a free audio of something we can insert every time it's time for spooky time.
Yeah. Okay, I got it. I'll find it.
Like some like scary forest noises or something.
Hoo hoo, like an owl. And, and like the sound
and, like,
of a bat.
And like footsteps crunching through the leaves.
Okay. And a little graphic that comes up and says spooky.
It spins spooky time in like this melty letters. Okay, yes.
Okay, I'll make it.
So what spooky time is going to be is, sometimes if we get them, if you guys all bear with us with this, submit your own spooky stories. This can be ghost stories, UFO stories. If you have pictures or something you want, or a video you want to send us to, we love inserting stuff, so we will insert it. This is your chance to share with us anything spooky, strange, unusual. We have so much fun when we have like guests like asking about this, and we're like, we want to hear your stories. So for today's first segment, I've brought my
a book.
Ghosts of Hollywood. The show still goes on. So we'll pick a ghost story from here to start with. But below you'll see a link, or on our Instagram you can go to the link in our bio to submit for both
spooky
or either of these. So to submit for spooky time.
Just like that. Just like magic.
Maybe we can find a spooky clock that's like spooky time and it like spins around.
That's what I pictured.
Love it. Okay, but first, 1-800 Psychic Babes hotline. Maybe we can do a neon thing that goes like this and turns on.
Okay, I've got my work cut out for me.
I know. I just made
this week
a lot of edits.
You're like, what if you get a dancing hamster to perform? I'm like, hang on. Let's not overdo it.
Okay. So we have a few Psychic Babe hotline submissions. We're going to start with Taylor. Taylor says, I have been unsure about the direction I want to go in my professional life. I've been going in the direction of the field of human services. I'm interested in things like being a therapist, a social worker, etc. Do you guys have any intuitive feelings on this? Does this feel like the right path? I did get a shiver right away, so I'm feeling like that's like a nudge to say that's a confirmation for you. Mm-hmm. This sounds like really fulfilling work. Do you have a thought that came through? And
I'm hearing like think outside the box, because it seems like your true calling and your true desire is to like really help and support people. Mm-hmm. And I'm hearing like there's so many ways to do that outside of just, not that just therapy is just therapy, but like social work therapy. I'm seeing like your eyes are looking at these two things, but there's like this whole other array of ways that you can help people. And I'm feeling that there might be a little bit of guilt about like this is like real work, and this other stuff that you're considering is a little too out there. So what I'm hearing is any work you choose that helps people in some way is of high service. It doesn't just have to be the two like most
like obvious.
Yeah, or the most what's the word, like regulated, if that makes sense. Like you have to get like certificates and degrees and all these things. Like there's other ways you can serve and help people that are of high service that see where your like ideas and desires lead you. That's like, I'm just hearing like open up the portal a little bit more. I'm feeling like so something that's on that track of being of service to human in this way. It sounds like you're drawn to like supporting a human in like some sort of like emotional capacity. But I like what you were saying, like think outside the box, so it doesn't have to look exactly like this. So I'm interested for you. So I feel like, yes, you're on the right path, because it's like, yes, you're heading in the right direction of being of service in a certain sort of capacity. But when you're trying to like narrow it down or figure out what's the right fit for you, consider things like the way you'll be working, the hours, where, and being really picky about this is how I want like my life to look. And then like what Juliet said, like you can think outside the box. Maybe you I don't know, maybe you do become a therapist, but you don't have to like work. Maybe you don't like the idea of like sitting in an office all day, like seeing people that way. Maybe you're going to become a therapist and then do things like group sessions or virtual, or I don't know, like there is, I feel like there's something pulling you from solidifying this decision, and maybe it's like the capacity that you see like this has to be in, the way it has to work, and like oh, like I want to do that kind of work, but I don't want to do it this way. So really giving yourself space to like play with that, like especially nowadays we can really create our business or our career in any way we please. So you know, we like how I do like coaching, like maybe you're gonna do something like that in your own unique way, but I do feel being of service in this sort of general capacity that right away gave me like a ooh, like it felt very like solidified. So maybe the title isn't exactly these things that you suggested, and it's time to like really like examine like outside of like the actual like literal work itself, like what do you want that career to look like, and then put together the pieces like from like a different way of starting with like the degree and then figuring out the rest, like what do I want that stuff to look like, and then studying or whatever it is
from knowing like that, like the end goal is to like get to this really good place that might not look like everyone else in that industry.
Yeah, I don't know why I'm feeling like what you deeply, deeply desire to do, you feel like is like frivolous or not serious enough. And I'm just hearing like whatever that is tied into this work is of high service and you should go for it.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Anything that we are called to do is of high service and deserving of your time. And there's people out there that like need that from you. Like you have that desire for a reason. So, yeah, you were pulled in this direction for a reason, and those other desires that you have that maybe you think aren't serious enough or whatever are there for a reason. So maybe you are meant to pull these things together in a unique way.
Please, you can write into Psychic Babes Hotline a second time and tell us how this connected with you. If you don't want to like leave a public comment or anything.
Yeah, or you can DM us.
Yeah, or DM us. We'd love to hear.
But yeah, I think you're gonna figure it out. You just have to give yourself some time and listen to your intuitive feelings. It's super important.
Beautiful.
Bravo. Okay, thank you, Taylor, for submitting and sharing that with us. Next up is spooky time. Woo. Okay.
We love spooky time.
I'm just gonna flip. Let's see. The Hollywood American Legion Hall.
Okay.
Have you heard about that?
No, everyone. I need like here. I'll pretend this is hot cocoa.
Oh yes, everybody, gather around the fire as Aunt Sadie reads you a story. Okay, I'm going to skip anything that doesn't seem that interesting, but I'm going to read this to you all. This will be more fun when you guys submit it.
I know this is our practice run.
This is going to be good. It's still going to be good. Okay. I love American Legion halls, first of all, because my family's all from a really tiny town in Wisconsin, and every wedding I've ever been to has been at the reception has been at the American Legion Hall, like the same one. So I have a special connection. So I like that this came up. Okay. The Hollywood Post of the American Legion is known as the motion picture post, being comprised mainly of men connected with various branches of the film industry who served in the World War. From its inception in 1929, the 33,000 square foot Egyptian Revival Moroccan Deco building, that's a lot, that houses Hollywood American Legion Post 43 was the favorite haunt of local artists, film stars, and politicians. Humphrey Bogart was often seen and heard in the basement bar, while Lana Turner, Rita Hayworth, Shirley Temple, Jane Mansfield, and Marilyn Monroe were also frequent visitors in the 1930s and 40s. In recent years, quite a bit of paranormal activity has been associated with the hall, and the ghostly sightings continue to this day. Oh. Are you all ready for the ghosts of the Hollywood American Legion Hall? Ooh, this is wholesome. A helpful ghost.
Oh.
A helpful ghost is often seen by TV and film crews who frequently use the venue for filming. He appears as a full-blown apparition and offers to help out with moving equipment, and then suddenly vanishes.
I think that's just the PA.
He's an apparition, though. That means he's very visible.
Wow.
I wonder if we can look up any pictures. In the stage area, one of the staff members who used to be an actor was practicing his Julius Caesar audition speech late one night. He was all alone in the building, and when he was done rehearsing, he heard clapping from somewhere in the empty auditorium.
Oh, that's creepy.
Instead of sticking around for an encore, the frightened man immediately fled the building. Yeah, that's what I would do. Ooh, that gave me a shiver. Can you imagine? Why? Okay, I would never be alone in any big building like that ever. I always get freaked out by that.
And then you hear applause.
Oh my God, I have shivers. Okay. In the downstairs bar, a bartender was loading a few things into the elevator and twice saw an apparition during the process. The first time he thought he was just tired and his eyes might be playing tricks on him, but the second time the apparition appeared, it was more opaque and actually said, "Can I help you?" The bartender ran out, but not before he left a note saying that he was never coming back in the building.
These are the most supportive and friendly ghosts.
Do you need help moving that equipment? Can I help you?
You're doing amazing.
I love that. I want to go to the American Legion Hall and get hyped up.
I know we need to do a whole like little series where we hit up like the haunted places.
Yeah,
in
this
Los
is
Angeles.
all the Hollywood ones, so we could totally do a tour.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. I know. Now, I wonder, American Legion halls are generally open to the public, aren't they? Or no?
Comment below. No, I don't know. Find out.
I'm from this very small town, so maybe that was just us. Okay. Other visitors claim to have heard loud, unexplained banging noises and other strange sounds. 2 locals were in the atrium room one night and heard what sounded like a man and woman laughing. They were more shocked than scared because the laughter sounded as if the man was playfully chasing the woman around the balcony.
Remember the good old days where you could just chase a woman around and it was funny?
Ooh, a medium visited. Okay, when British medium David Wells visited the hall with the TV's Most Haunted crew in 2005, they also experienced quite a bit of ghostly activity. There were echoes of the whole Marilyn Monroe JFK affair throughout, said David. He's a medium. I picked up their layers, not their presence. And there's a bar downstairs where all the movers and shakers used to gather, and the air is very thick with it down there. Okay, that doesn't really say much from a medium. Okay.
Yeah, there was some energy. All right,
their
thank you.
layers, not their presence.
Okay.
Lots of movers and shakers.
Thank you. Thank you for that helpful tip.
Interestingly enough, the hall was where Marilyn Monroe was first introduced to Hollywood at the start of her career. That's cool.
Oh, I love that fact.
David, the medium, also connected with the spirit of Marshall, an elderly caretaker who had lived in the building and subsequently died by falling down a set of stairs just 5 years before. According to David, while Marshall seems to hang around quite a bit, he isn't grounded. He seems to have crossed over and then comes back. We're all given free will when we pass, explained David, and a lot of spirits don't cross because they have a choice. Marshall was very fond of his friend Terry Duddy, who also works there, so Marshall would come back quite often, especially when he felt that Terry needed his support. Another helpful ghost.
If you need a
if I
helping
die, I'm
hand,
gonna come back and help you out. I'm gonna be like, Juliet, do you need help unloading the dishwasher?
That's my grandpa, Bert, in spirit. He's like, change the oil. I've talked about that.
David the medium, also got the impression that Marshall had a definite agenda. He had stuff lying around before he crossed over that was very damning. He knew a few secrets or some information he was trying to protect or bring to the fore. He wasn't just there because he loved the place, although he did, but he was also troubled and had a job to do. The thing I like about Marshall is that his communication to me was very clear, almost as though he was talking in my ear. I could clearly make out his accent in the way he spoke.
What did he say?
We need to go be mediums for these books. This medium is literally saying nothing.
Move aside, David.
The goddesses are here.
Also, there's a reason why David's like, don't put my last name. I would like to.
Well, no, it's British medium David Wells with the TV show Most Haunted.
Okay. David, don't come for us. I'm sure you're great.
Maybe we need to see the episode. Maybe the book is just, maybe this author is not very good.
So far, David has been like, yes, they're saying things clearly, but I won't tell you
David
what
Wells
they're
also
saying.
wrote the foreword to this book by Marla Brooks. Marla, you're either not including enough of what he said in the TV show.
David is like, I've been completely misrepresented in this book.
He wrote the foreword for it, so you'd think he'd know. Okay. When David asked Marshall to tell him something personal so positive identification could be made, Marshall said, ask Terry about the naked story. When Terry heard that, there was no question that David was, in fact, communicating with Marshall's spirit because nobody knew about the embarrassing story about he and Marshall. Are they going to tell us? Let's see. Oh, yep. Terry went on to explain that early one morning, Terry is alive. Okay. And then his friend is the one that passed. Marshall got up to go get the newspaper. Marshall's the ghost. Okay, since nobody was around, Marshall didn't bother to put on any clothes, but once he got outside, the door slammed shut behind him, and there he stood in the buff with no way of getting back in. Marshall now seems to roam the whole building in the buff. Just kidding, he doesn't say that. The whole building. Happily, and is not shy about making his presence known. During Most Haunted's investigation of the bar, a television set mounted on the wall turned itself off repeatedly. In an effort to make sure that this phenomenon was not an electrical malfunction, the show's cast asked the spirit to turn the television set off and on when they prompted him to, and the spirit complied with his instructions each and every time. As a seance, we're almost done. This is a pretty good one, though.
Yeah.
As a seance was taking place in the bar, some of the cast members were sitting next door in the adjacent pool room. The seance participants asked for any spirit who happened to be there to try and move some of the balls on the pool table in the next room. At that moment, the 8-ball literally jumped out of the pool table pocket and landed on the floor at the opposite end of the room, much to the shock of those who were sitting there watching it happen. Whew, yeah. When they asked for the spirit to again move the 8-ball, it did indeed move. According to David, it was Marshall who threw the pool balls. That gave me full body chills.
Marshall. All right, David.
We gotta go meet Marshall.
Some points back.
Later on, during the investigation, David came across another spirit in the building's small theater. I couldn't get a fix on who it was, but when you walk into the theater, you hear applause. Not from many, but a single person applauding. And it's not very enthusiastic applause at all. It was more like a, so what, been there, done that sort of clapping rather than, wow, that was great.
A less supportive ghost.
Okay, David the medium. Wow, thank you for that thrilling story of what kind of clapping it was. Maybe we should do this whole book. It's kind of fun to make fun of.
Spooky time.
When we then actually got up on the stage and started dancing about, trying to elicit some sort of reaction from the seemingly bored spirit, but unfortunately we didn't get any response, said David. When I was suggested that they were probably lucky that they didn't get anything thrown at them for their ad-lib performance, David just laughed. An astral tomato would have been lovely.
Oh, David.
Curious to see if the American Legion Hall is still being haunted by Marshall or anyone else since most haunted's visit, I spoke to Terry Duddy and he confirmed David Wells' suspicion that the attempt to cross Marshall over to the other side had not worked out. We've had one incident since Most Haunted, the TV show, was here, and that was with a grip on a movie shoot. He was rolling cable and saw somebody walk into a room, and he thought it was an extra who was dressed as a waiter. He dropped his cable and went to tell the person that they should get out of there because they were done shooting for the day. When he walked into the room, there was nobody in there, and of course the only entrance and exit was the way he just walked in. He came to me and told me what happened and wondered what the hell was going on. So I took him downstairs and I pointed to a picture on the wall, and he said, "Is this the person you saw?" The grip said that it was, then kind of freaked out. Marshall had once been a waiter at the legendary Brown Derby restaurant and was also the bar manager at the Legion Hall. The picture they have on the wall is of Marshall in a suit with a string tie looking just like a waiter.
Whoa.
Pretty cool.
Ooh, I liked that spooky time.
Okay, let us know if you did like the Ghosts of Hollywood book, because I would be super down to read more. My friend Claire gave this to me for my birthday last year.
I love it.
It's really fun to read.
We'll keep analyzing David's analysis.
Yes.
And then eventually he'll come on the show.
We'll be like, look, this book, not your best. Not really giving much there. So yes, please submit to Psychic Babes Hotline. Please submit to Spooky Time. We're excited to do these 2 new segments at the end of every episode. I think it'll just be a fun little way to wrap up every show. So yeah, I think that's it for today.
Yes, it is. Give us a follow. Sadie is
at I am Sadie Olson.
I'm at Juliet.Piper. Our shared account is at Goddess Hangs. And if you go leave us a review, please take a screenshot of that review before you submit it. Send it to goddeshangs@hotmail.com and we will send you a gift, a free gift.
Not at Hotmail, at Gmail.
Did I say Hotmail? Oh my God. Now my age is showing.
Juliet's reverted back into her early 20s. She's like, I want to be a teenager again.
Hotmail.com.
Goddeshangs@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have to go save the Hotmail domain too because you said it. Just kidding. Yes, we will be sending out. We still have to finish creating it. Well, at this point in time, maybe it'll be done by the time we post this episode. But you will get a free gift from us. Yes, like the episode, leave a review, subscribe, share with a friend.
Please.
If you're new here, welcome. I can't wait to hear from you. Feel free to introduce yourself to us. We love chatting with all of our listeners. We're so grateful that you all are here.
And we love all your DMs. Thank you for DMing us
Yes.
and sharing your stories and feedback and experience.
Yes, it's so amazing to hear from you guys. Yeah, thank you. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.